All right, welcome to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show on the Barnburner Podcast Network. We are, of course, a part of the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, so check us out there as well. We have a great time slot, and we're excited to be part of that new venture. We haven't joined you in a while, man. We've been in the midst of the various life moves. 4th of July happened. I moved to a new house. Got this podcast studio if we're watching live here, which is where all my fiance maybe put all my shit, basically. But I call it my podcast studio / office, so I'm excited to join you from this area where I can just have my Grizzly Zen going on. But right now I've got Zach, Barnburner Bro, and Rich on the podcast. Zach, how have you been doing? What have you been doing? And are you excited about the Orlando games kicking off?
Heck yeah, I'm excited. What have I been up to? Same stuff as everyone else, I guess. Working on Michael Jordan, The Life by Roland Lazenby, who you interviewed right about the time that the Jordan documentary was wrapping up. So I heard the interview first, and now I'm working on the book. It's a beast of a book, but it's so much fun to read through. I'm really enjoying that. And yeah, definitely excited about the Orlando bubble. It sounds like some other – so you have all these, leagues are trying to restart. MLS, one of them. USL is another. MLB is also trying to reset. So today, the MLS, FC Dallas – they just had too many teams test positive. So the league, I don't know if it was a league decision or their decision, but was like, hey, yeah, you guys can't participate in this restart. I don't know. I think they had a bubble, actually, and it might actually be in Orlando also.
It is, yeah.
Some sort of tournament going on. Yeah. So that's, one example of the plan kind of gone awry. It hadn't happened yet in the NBA. It sounds like the tests coming back positive out of everyone tested have been pretty lower than, all the average national averages and most of the big cities.
Did the Grizz
kind of see what happens from there. It doesn't, they're not coming
they haven't released it
saying,
yeah,
but you can guess based on the language that no one tested positive.
Pretty good. I feel like that's
so far.
We're a healthy young team. We're very virile. We can't even get COVID, so that's good. Rich, what's been going on with you, man?
Nothing, man. I've been good as well. Just, staying inside, staying upstairs, going downstairs, working from home. That's been the gist of, life for the past few months. Doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of, reaching out to friends and family, just connecting. I think this has given me time to pause a little more and actually call people and check in and really just, get pulse checks with people that I care about. So it's been a good time to kind of reset, refresh in a way, albeit under terrible circumstances. But yeah, just trying to remain as positive as possible and take it day by day.
Yeah, it really has been an odd time, but thank God that we might have some sense of normalcy coming soon. We got the NBA is going to be returning, one of the first sports league to do so. They finally announced the schedule, and we started to see this thing shape. And the NBA's posted tweets about what it's going to look like down there. I mean, it's starting to look real, and whereas it hasn't been basically for the better part of 4 months now since the NBA was canceled, we're starting to see the clouds part and sunshine behind it. On this episode, we'll kind of go through the Grizzlies bubble schedule, the seeding game schedule. We'll talk the roster, who we expect to start, maybe how we expect those rotations to look, particularly who should start on the wing. We'll talk maybe a little bit of Zion Williamson stuff. The Pelicans, of course, are arch rival nemesis, whether they know it or not. And then maybe some slogans on the courts down there at the Summer League. And maybe a little college basketball at the end. We're in Memphis. We got some Memphis Tigers recruiting news, and then some other news around college basketball that was very shocking with respect to 5-star recruits. So that's kind of the outline of how the show is going to go, and we can jump right in. Have you guys had a chance? I'm sure you have. So look at the Grizzlies seeding games, the 8-game schedule leading into the playoffs. And when you saw those 8 games, what was your first thought, Rich?
Oh, when I saw the schedule drop, my first thought was we got to kind of come out in those first 2 to 3 games and really set a tone. That tail end, we don't know how teams are going to play the schedule, those teams that are kind of entrenched into their spot, whether they're going to be treating it like the end of the regular season, maybe resting, etc. But it's a little bit of not necessarily a gauntlet, but we got kind of a tough hand. And so those first 2 to 3 games, I think, when the team comes back to kind of get their legs under them, after the scrimmages and the training camp, if you will, I'm just interested to see what it looks like chemistry wise, because the Grizzlies have been priding themselves on such a great team chemistry this year, but up until the pandemic brought the league to a halt. Of course, Jaren had been out, BC had been out, Justice had yet to play. We had just lost some vets, and so I'm sure it's going to take some time to get acclimated. Just one, for the people who were playing together, and two, trying to bring in basically our summer free agent Justice Winslow into the rotation. So just curious to see that starting wing spot, which we're going to get into later. And I've never experienced the life of a professional athlete, like how much is rust going to play a factor in this? Guys have been home. Some people have gyms, some people don't. Some people were able to shoot, some people weren't. And yeah, the practice facilities are back open. Well, some have had to close down because of COVID once again. But yeah, just really want to see the guys come out strong. But I think one of the bonuses of our team is the youth. Growing up, of course, when you're young, we can play ball all day. We can run and jump, not get tired. And so, we have a very young team who I think has an advantage in that I think they can get their legs under them a lot quicker than, say, some low management veterans who kind of have to get back into the swing of things, if you will. So definitely excited to see what they take place, and they have that 3.5 game lead, and I'm just hoping that they keep it.
Yeah, all good points too about the youth of the team and the training camp transition to integrate our new pieces. And for those that haven't seen it, the schedule is as follows: starting on Friday, July 31st. We had the Blazers, then the Spurs, then the Pelicans, Jazz, Thunder, Raptors. Marc Gasol, first time we'll play him as a Raptor. The Celtics, and then the Bucks. So kind of a gauntlet in the East there at the end. A lot has been said about facing those teams at the end of the schedule is beneficial because you hope that the Raptors, Celtics, and Bucks kind of already have solidified their playoff spot and used those last games to just sort of play Giannis like 15 minutes and coast into the playoffs, which could benefit the Grizzlies at that point. So I'd rather see those teams at the end of this 8 games. But what did you think the second that you saw the 8 games besides hell yeah, basketball's back?
I think what you just mentioned about playing some of the top teams in the East, looking at them, having Bucks at our 4th to last, Celtics right after that, Raptors getting subbed in for the second time that we would have played the Pelicans. So really, when the reports first started coming out, they're like, all right, everyone's going to play the 8 games, and there's speculation around how are they going to do the scheduling. Well, you're obviously not going to play someone on one of those. You can't play the teams that aren't there. So what do you do? That was like the question. Like, what do? You just skip over them? Do you play someone else twice? How's that going to work? So if we would have skipped over those teams, we would have had the Pelicans twice at the end. And really the only change to that is that the Raptors got put in that final game for us, the 8th game, instead of the Pelicans. So that was really the only, change necessarily. So it wasn't a huge variation from what everyone was kind of already speculating. So we did have a pretty good idea of what the schedule was going to be. And then also the Pelicans, their final 2 games would have been against us since ours would have been against them. They got the Wizards, who are obviously a much weaker team overall than the Raptors, plugged in at the end. So that definitely benefits them. And they played the Kings twice, but they don't have the opportunity to play us and make games back on us, which could play out in our favor, depending how things shake out against them. But Bucks, I think they're right now, they are 6.5 games up on the Raptors. So it's possible if the Raptors start off slow and the Bucks start off well, they could have already clinched by then. So you can't see them playing Giannis, the whole time. Celtics and Raptors could also both be firmly in their spot in the seeding since there's enough distance in the East where, they're not going to be going balls to the wall in their games. So that could definitely play out in our advantage. With the strength of schedule, I thought that was kind of interesting as we initially, before the break, we had one of the toughest strength of schedules. I think it was 1 or 2 toughest, and the Pelicans had one of the easiest remaining in the season. Of course, that's also the caveat of, are the teams that have already clinched, are they going to play people? So is a tough schedule actually a tough schedule? I mean, you just don't know how things shake out. But what this current schedule does is it bumps us down to 5th toughest out of the teams playing. Pelicans still have the easiest, so they are set up, pretty well to make a run at the 8th seed for us. But honestly, I think things improved. Really, the situation improved the outlook for the Grizzlies' chances of getting in the playoffs more so than a lot of people, I think, have looked at it and kind of been freaking out or frustrated about it. But I think it's pretty fair and really gives us a pretty decent chance to get in.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately fair. I think it's a good manifestation of how the rest of the season was going to go. And I mean, persecuted Grizzlies fans, of course, myself included, we have to assume the league is scheming to get Zion in the 8th seed, and they haven't really denied that. I think they've been pretty open about how exciting it would be if Zion was playing LeBron in the first round for a league that's already lost billions of dollars. So I get it. Their business and they want to make it happen. But, we like to see our boys in there for sure. Moving on to the roster, as of right now, it looks like all 17 guys are going to head down to Orlando. We've seen other guys on different teams, Avery Bradley, for example, drop out, say they're not going to go play, and for various reasons, some citing health concerns, some citing family concerns, some citing the social justice movement going on. But the Grizzlies so far have had no one opt out, and we were a little surprised, I think, to see Justice Winslow not opt out. He's been very vocal about the fact he thinks the Orlando bubble may be kind of a distraction. That he did not opt out, and it seems to be going down. Now, granted, he could not get on the plane, the day they head down there. I think they're heading down today or tomorrow. But all the guys seem pretty excited to get down there and play basketball, which is pretty unique, I think, for a team. They look forward to continuing their camaraderie they had during the season. They were seemingly really tight. It's kind of a group of young guys who like to play basketball and had a good time together. So I think they're looking to it like, as Brandon Clark mentioned in his interview, like it's going to be college. All over again, and he's almost looking forward to it, I think. So that's good. Whereas some of the vets, as Rich mentioned, aren't down to leave their wife and kids for like 2 months and go to a city that, let's face it, like Orlando's not that great of a city. It's not like you're going to the Hamptons or some shit and going to kick it for a long time. You're going to be in Disney World, which is an interesting situation. So were you surprised to see Justice Winslow heading down there, Rich, or what? Were you like? You guys got to make his check, or what was your feeling on that? Or did you have any feelings on it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I talked earlier about the youth thing, and I think that's coming into play here as well. Just as far as like responsibilities are concerned, we have guys who might have a kid or might have some other responsibilities, but like we don't have many like family men, right? Who are married, settled, wife and kids at home. You gotta make sure your children are good. That aspect. It's kind of akin to AAU tournaments, right? We're just going out, we're flying out, we're going to hoop, we're going to play ball, right? We're camping up, we might be playing multiple games, etc., blah, blah, blah. And so, to see no one from the Grizzlies defer wasn't shocking to me at first. And then I knew Justice had been very vocal, and I think it's just kind of a two-edged sword, if you will. Like, him playing doesn't mean he's not passionate about, the movement and everything that's going on, but also he's trying to build relationships with his teammates. He's new to the squad. I don't think he wanted his first impression in a way to be, all right, y'all, I'm rocking with you. I'm gonna sit this one out. Like, the guys would have respected it. But I think just him being in Orlando, first and foremost, I think means a lot to him, and it means a lot to his teammates. And so, whether that deters or whether it's a distraction, I think that's up for debate on how you feel. But yeah, it looks like everybody's making the trip. Even Jonte Porter's going. So we got the whole game. So super interested to see the whole Grind City gang down there for sure.
Jonte Porter heard they got PS5s down there. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna go.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna rest this ACL or whatever and play the new 2K.
I'm gonna milk this shit.
Yeah, you can see the sweat, man, on their bodies. So yeah, Chris Harrington wrote an article. And, he's kind of the guru for sure. He kicks off all these conversations, and you click on them, and then podcast guys like us talk about them. And of course, he does all the analysis, and we just kind of bullshit on it. So thank you, Chris, for that. But his article was about, we see the four starters of the Grizzlies rotation are seemingly locked. You have John Moran at point guard. You have Dylan Brooks either at the 2 or 3, depending on how you look at it. Jared at the 4, and then Jonas at the 5. Those seem to be given. But then the question is, and has been long throughout the season, who plays that other guard/wing spot? And in his article, Chris Harrington makes the case for DeAnthony Melton to get the start over incumbents like Kyle Anderson or the Justice Winslows, which everyone thinks was kind of the reason he was brought in, is to take that starting spot. So, of course, he goes through the metrics, he goes through the data, he goes through the fit. The short answer is when DeAnthony Melton shares the backcourt with Ja and Dylan plays the 3, just a lot of good shit happens. We realize this, the event metrics love D-Melt, and eye test does too. He just makes things happen. Harrington brought up the good point about how when Dylan plays the 3, he doesn't feel like he has to dribble as much and do the dumb Dylan shit, and he takes a lot more standstill jumpers, and which is great. Like his efficiency is drastic when he's this true 3 instead of the impromptu 2. So DeAnthony Mel kind of shares the ball handling duties with Ja in the backcourt. Also, he can take DeAnthony Melton could take the more intense point guard assignments on defense and let Ja hide on the lesser guard, on the other team. So he went through our schedule, and it's like the guards we face are insane if you think about it. And we have, Damian Lillard, we have Drew Holiday, Mike Conley, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kyle Lowry, Kemba Walker. So those are some of the games where you're playing, and guards we're going to be playing. So you don't want Ja's not a notably good defender. We don't want to get torched, and you can't really do that if Kyle Anderson is on the court. He can't really guard the opposing team's water above point guard. And then so you can read the article as a bunch of reasons, but he also makes a case for Justice Winslow too, and then Kyle Anderson. But what would you guys do if you were Taylor Jenkins? You got handed a clipboard and you said, here's who's getting the start in game 1 versus the Blazers. Zach, what would you do? Who's suiting up?
So I'm gonna give it to Winslow. I'm just gonna throw him in there. That's what you brought him in to do. He was the big trade for the year. He was this summer's free agency. If you think that he's healthy enough, then all those things that you described about guarding the star guards of the other teams, the big name players, that's something that he can definitely do. I did notice some things kind of interesting. So obviously we moved off of Crowder. He was soaking up literally bajillion minutes, it felt like, but only 29 minutes a game. It felt like a lot more than that.
Felt like he played 50 minutes a game.
That was 50 shots a game.
Yeah, you let that shit fly. Yeah, I mean, and then he talks about how the guys that don't even shoot that well, but they have reputations. There's this whole other level of when guys run them off the line, but so it effectively opens up the court, and it's like he's Steph because people think he's Steph, and that. It's an interesting mental component to the game too, is that guys that see a shooter and they're like, oh shit, I got to get out there. It's interesting, but sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah. No, I mean, maybe he hits the wide open ones, but yeah, contest not so much. So Crowder, I was looking at his numbers and then Winslow's numbers from last season, just because he hadn't played much this year. So they both averaged 29 minutes a game. Crowder was averaging 9.9, 6.2, and 2.8 points, rebounds, and assists. Winslow a tick higher at 12.5 points, 5.5 boards, and then 4 assists per game. Crowder's effective field goal percentage was 47, while Winslow's was 49. And Winslow's defensive rating was 108 compared to Crowder's 110. So basically what I gather from that little sample size is that, and they're, similar size, similar build. They both have spotty jump shots, but they're known for being tough defenders. That Winslow is just a next step above what Crowder was giving us. And, Crowder got a ton of minutes, and we played well in a lot of games with him, a ton of minutes. So I think that it wouldn't be that much different for the guys to plug him right in, because he could be, fill that Crowder role, but just take it to a little bit next level. And that could be a very seamless transition, I think. So that's why I would put Justice Winslow in there for the starting spot.
Rich, who you rocking with, D-Melt or Justice?
Yeah, so when I was reading the article earlier, definitely, as a DeAnthony Melton stan, I was definitely, hyped to see his love in there that he's getting, and he's been getting love from the national media too. People are starting to really put some eyes on him for sure. He's getting the recognition he deserves. But Similar to what Zach said, man. I don't think Justice Winslow was brought here to come off the bench. I don't think he was brought here to be this missing piece, if you will, in that starting five. I love what DeAnthony brings off the bench. I love the energy, the defense, the instincts, his intangibles. You can't teach it. But I think in the heart of hearts, the organization, Justice Winslow was brought here to be a starter with the young guys. And I think that's what's going to happen. I definitely don't think Kyle is not going to be a thought as far as starting. I think Justice, you just kind of got to throw him in the fire, kind of. He's a secondary ball handler. He's a defender that could possibly, not sure if he can guard ones, but he's definitely switchable and can guard multiple positions. And so, yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be centered around that jump shot. Like, is he going to be able to keep defenses honest? Will they have to respect him out on the perimeter? I think that's going to be huge, and whether, Ja is able to still probe and have those lanes to drive and kick. And so, yeah, he was hurt the majority of this year. But if I'm thinking early on, Justice Winslow, I'm hoping that, he's able to find that stroke a little more and really fit in seamlessly with the squad, with the gang, because, the chemistry was just so great. The camaraderie was great too. You just want to see that continue down in Orlando.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zach.
How fun is Melton, Josh Jackson, and Brandon Clark off the bench?
With Tyus?
Those are all,
yeah.
And Tyus. Yeah, how much fun is that?
Yeah, and so we've seen that bench unit wreak havoc on opposing teams' bench units, and it's probably a large part of the reason we've heavily exceeded expectations is because our bench play has been so great, which makes sense. And really, I think it's about who finishes the game. I think it's, Justice might get the start, but if D-Melt's playing really well, we could see him close out, in the closing lineups. We've seen Taylor Jenkins be adaptable and use different rotations depending on who's playing well. We've seen nearly every permutation of this roster close the lineup, close a game. So I think he's a great coach he won't be married to a particular 5-man rotation if things don't go as well or whatever. So that's good to know too. Zach, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's a great point about Jenkins is he knows who the hot hand is. He even with Ja had rough games and he would hold him out for Tyus if Tyus was playing well. He's really good at making those in-game adjustments and decisions, and it's paid a lot of dividends for the guys. It's not we have one game plan. This is the only thing we're going to do. We're going to beat it in the ground, hook or crook, win or lose. He's found creative ways to win with the roster that he has, and I can really appreciate that.
For sure, yeah. Well, before we move on to other things around the league, we do want to mention again our partner, Dash Radio. We're on the Nothing But Net channel. We are the Backdoor Cut Show. Of course, we talk mostly Grizzlies basketball. We're also around the league. We're based in Memphis, and we're all three Memphians. We're about Memphis, and that's most of what we talk about, but you'll hear about other things about it as well. So if you hear a lot of Grizzlies talking, are like, what the hell? I didn't know anyone was fans of the Grizzlies. Well, you're wrong. There's at least 3 of us, and you're listening to them. So welcome to the show. And this entire summer seeding game experience is going to be awesome for basketball fans because it is literally March Madness for the NBA. I mean, games start at noon or 1:30 Central or until 9, 10 that night. You got 7 games a day, sometimes a day full of basketball, and not only basketball, but basketball that's meaningful for a lot of these teams and seeding purposes, and also to get back in shape. If you're the Bucks, maybe you don't give a fuck where your seeding is because you're pretty sure you're going to be the one, but you also want to be in shape when it comes to the playoffs and already have some good rhythm going, because these guys have had 4 months off. And another interesting thing that I thought about, I thought about this. I don't think I read it, but I was like, this is basically year 2 of Ja. I mean, if you think about it, it's basically like they had an off season and this is just the next season. So you can almost think of it like year 3 of Jaren and year 2 of Ja. We saw Ja add 12 pounds of muscle. That's the sort of thing you would do between your rookie and sophomore year. And it's like an interesting little year 2 for our young guys. And that really matters for teams like us because guys make huge jumps when they're 20 years old, both physically and mentally for the game, for the feel for the game. So I think that really matters for young teams. And maybe we'll see what we would have seen if the season had played out in a season that had started normally this fall. Maybe we'll see that in this summer league, depending on how much the guys get their bodies in shape. Not summer league, but I keep on summer league, the seeding games. So that's an interesting wrinkle. Okay, so Pelicans. All right, so if you follow me on Twitter, you know sometimes I'm clowning on Zion, and it has nothing to do with him. He's super exciting, by all accounts, an incredibly great kid. So bully for him. That's amazing, and I look forward to watching him play basketball for a long time. But the way that he's been championed by the league and everybody in the world, it seems, as the next coming of basketball Christ, without having played any basketball games, is interesting to me. I get it. I get why we want this to happen. But to me, it's like, how many games do you think you think if he had just not played a single game this season, this would still be happening? I think it would. Like, I don't think there's any link to which the media wouldn't go to champion this guy. Like, if he had gone full Odin and just not played any of his rookie year, or Joel Embiid, like, I still think he'd be talked about like he is, and there'd be clips of him in summer league or whatever, dunking, in top 10 dunks or whatever. And that's fine. I get it. He's excited. So I have to do my Grizzlies fandom, and I have to make fun of them, and no one cares. I'm shouting to I'm preaching to my Twitter following choir, who's all Grizz fans anyway. And so I get it. It's it kind of falls on deaf ears. But Zion's thing, he's like a big dude. He's a heavier guy. That's the way his body's built. He's 19 years old, just turned 20 today. Happy birthday, Zion. And I'm worried about his overall health. I think he would be stupid if he shot everyone in the world with True Serum and said, do you really think he's going to have a fully healthy career, or do you think he'll be hurt a lot? I think most people would say, if I'm being truly honest with myself, the odds are him being hurt unless something drastic happens to his body. So I wondered to myself, this layoff, what is he going to come back heavier? Is he going to come back in shape? Because to me, a guy like this, there's only two alternatives. It's like the Marc Gasol thing. It's like he comes back and he's ripped, and we're like, what the hell? Or he comes back and he's a little heavier, and we're like, oh, could have seen this too. So the Pelicans posted the workouts from New Orleans. The guys are back on campus, so to speak, and working out. And the Pelicans posted this picture on their Twitter feed. I'll pull it up for those watching online. See if we get this. There we go. That is Zion Williamson, mask over his face. So he's observing the quarantine. Appreciate that. We'll have to force shame him. He's got his Pelicans hoodie, sleeveless hoodie, which, by the way, love that look. Need to get a sleeveless hoodie. And he's looking quite yoked. I don't know if you can tell, but he's got some definition in his arms. It wasn't there before. He's got veins in his arms. That doesn't happen just naturally. You got to be pretty yoked and in pretty good vascular shape for that to happen. The first thing I thought of when I saw his picture is that Zion looks like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, and so that is a scary proposition for fans around the league who thought maybe he wouldn't come back in good shape and might not be able to lift the Pelicans to where they would get, which is the 8th seed. So what were y'all's thoughts, or did you even care that Zion looks like this now? And he merely adopted the dark. He was born in it, molded by it, and he's going to take over Orlando and bring the League of Shadows in. What do you guys think about that?
All I have to say to everyone, how dare us doubt Woj and his news leak of Zion being fit. Hashtag, What did you say, Sam? You said hashtag Woj Weight Watch.
Woj Weight Watch. He's
he knew.
Got his ear to the ground, ear to the scale, as it were.
Woj would never lead us astray. So for all of us who doubted, shame on us.
I will say though, the hater in me is the light can do a lot of things. I think when you're sweaty, we're all dudes. We've done push-ups before we've gone to the beach. You can do some curls, you can do the power muscles, the beauty muscles before you go to the beach, and you can look a little better than you normally would. This is, of course, when he's working out, he's always had big arms. That's not been surprising. We'll see. We'll see when he hits the court, but it does not look like he gained a bunch of weight. We'll see. But Rich, what'd you make of Zion's Bane?
Man, when I saw it, I was just like, oh shit, oh fuck. He looks mean. He looks noticeably slimmer.
Yeah,
honestly,
his face looks slimmer.
His face looks slimmer.
That's where you can tell if someone's legitimately lost weight. Yeah,
right. Yeah, the face definitely looks slimmer.
Yeah.
And so the Pelicans knew what they were doing, man. They were giving the people what they wanted. Shout out to their social media team. And I'm looking forward to seeing him play ball. Of course, he has this immense hype, this immense, marketability. But honestly, if you hear Zion speak or or just, do an interview. Like, he's one of the most humble guys, just always deferring to his vets, his teammates. And he just wants to play ball, man. So, the internet and the fanboys kind of created this Zion, and so definitely looking forward to seeing him in Orlando. And, the Pelicans are our arch rival, if you will. But damn, I love watching them play, man. I love watching Lonzo push the pace, get the ball up, BI handling shit in the mid-range. Don't want them to make the playoffs this year. We'll catch them next year. But, definitely looking forward to watching them play. And just hoop in Orlando, because they're going to be highly publicized. They're going to be all over SportsCenter. It's going to be all over Twitter, whatever the Pelicans are doing, and that's all because of Zion. That's the Zion effect. So, looking forward, honestly, for many years to come of Southwest Division battles between the Grizz, the Pelicans, fucking Luka, shit. It's a fucking gauntlet, man.
Yeah, it is, and you got two very small market and very similar cities in New Orleans and Memphis. Two very young teams with each an exciting young player. Kind of the guys you think will be heading up the league in 5-6 years when Giannis is the elder statesman. That's a crazy time to think about, but it will happen. And LeBron's retired, so that'll be cool to watch. And I certainly hope that they're healthy. Like, I want to see the whole thing play out with every team healthy. So there's no bullshit about if Brandon Ingram gets hurt or something, then I want both teams to battle it out and the best man wins, so to speak, or else I feel like I'll always have an asterisk, when we're talking shit on Twitter to Pelicans fans and vice versa. So we'll see, man. It's our spot to lose.
Regardless,
yeah,
Lillard's gonna have something to say regardless. So
yeah, you're right. You're right.
It is what it is.
And good. I'm glad they got fans now, man. The Pelicans have had a tough beat. And so now, it's good that they got signed. It's good for the league, I think. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for basketball to be back. Moving over to college basketball, we saw Maker, is it? I think it's Maker because it's Don Maker's little brother, I believe. Committed to Howard University, a historical black college and university. I believe the first 5-star in the history of NCAA Division I athletics to commit to an HBCU. Rich, you were an HBCU grad yourself. What did you think when you saw this?
Man, when I saw that, so it's crazy. I'll kind of take it back a month or so. Read this book by Arthur Brandon McKinney called Slave to the Game. And it was a basketball book, highly recommended. And the gist of this book was a 5-star recruit turning down Power Fives to follow in his grandfather's footsteps, who played at Howard University. So he commits to Howard. And, they're like, oh, how did he go there? They must have paid him, blah, blah, blah. But he literally just wants to follow in his grandfather's footsteps. And he takes Howard all the way to the Final Four, whatever in the book, championship, etc. And so, that was a super great read. I think I finished it in two days max. And so, that definitely put a plug in my ear when I was reading it. Damn, that shit would really change the game, right? As far as Power 5 sports are concerned. When we think of the overwhelming majority of Division I athletes, I love Mac McClung and JJ Redick, but the overwhelming majority is African Americans. Shout out Mac though, man. He got hops. And so when I saw it, man, I was just like, oh shit, wow, because I think Memphis was involved with him as well. And of course, as a Memphis fan, any recruiting news I get, I'm like, oh shit, hopefully we get this one. But I was just I couldn't do nothing but be proud, man. I was like, hell yeah. Fuck yeah. I don't know if this is going to be a domino effect, just as far as the financial ramifications, the financial, shortfalls of HBCUs, as far as facilities are concerned, etc. It's just, it's been a tough road, just as far as exposure and financial resources, endowment, all that. But if this could be a domino, I mean, there's no telling, where this could go. Cause I think, we've got Mikey Williams, who's probably top 3 rising sophomore, if you will, whose mother played softball at Howard. And, when we think of HBCUs also, there is a HBCU kind of hierarchy, if you will. The ones you're going to always hear about are Howard, Morehouse, Spelman, etc. But, there's a plethora of historically black colleges all throughout the country. And so, just to see a high-level recruit, me getting on ESPN one morning and that's the top story, it was dope to see, for sure. So I wish him all the best. I wish him success. And I hope that, the season's able to go forward as normal. And, Howard can do some things.
Zach, do you have any thoughts on that when that came across the wire?
Yeah, I mean, what's one of the greatest stories of, or one of the greatest aspects of college basketball is March Madness, which are Cinderella stories. So this kind of just falls right in line with that, of a school that, is not typically getting this kind of talent, getting it, and possibly this could be a whole paradigm shift. That might be reaching too far to say that it's going to all start kind of domino in that way, but it's definitely the first step in kind of spreading out the talent, maybe possibly away from some of these other blue bloods where 5-star guys typically go. And I don't know, about the shoe deals and that kind of stuff that these schools have, but if that kind of money starts getting involved, we know how quickly that can change everything. And our kids could be watching movies in 20, 30 years, and that's just commonplace. They'd be like, Duke, huh? I didn't know they were good back in the day. I mean, obviously that's a stretch, but who knows what could happen there. But that was a very cool thing. It wasn't just, he didn't just have Howard in there as kind of like, a tip of the hat in his Final Four, Final Five, whatever it was. He was serious the whole way, and it ended up committing there.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time before Duke, to use your example, wasn't Duke. Before Coach Krzyzewski got there, they were just a shitty private school with a bunch of white people in North Carolina. And so it was these things are very cyclical. I mean, I remember in the early aughts, from 2000 to 2009, there's Bradley was a team that was always in the tournament and really good. Do y'all remember that? And now they're just nowhere to be found. So it's there's these teams have these runs depending on if they have a coach. Hell, in Memphis, I mean, the Calipari years that I imagine a lot of people think we're basically insignificant now, and they'd be right for the past 6-7 years. But it's interesting, and we'll see where it goes. I did talk to, I had all those same thoughts. I did talk to a friend of Zach and I's, who's a head coach of or not assistant coach of an HBCU women's basketball team, and asked him about it, and a local HBCU in the area. And he was like, well, look, it's great. Objectively, it's a really good thing. And then he said, if I was him, I probably wouldn't have done it, if only for the reason that it's the money there isn't as much money there. You won't have as much exposure. No matter what, it just won't be as much as if Kentucky, for example, where you had the option to play. And the alumni network, you wouldn't get taken care of like you do if you go to Kentucky, or hell, even at Memphis. There's all this old money that's existed that would take care of you when you come. You've seen the Memphis Tiger players come back to the city, the Will Colemans that just kind of get taken care of, and get given jobs and because they're heroes of the city. And that was his take. I have no idea. I don't know about the alumni networks that HBCUs. Sure, Rich could speak more to that. Maybe that's completely inaccurate, but that was one point you brought up that obviously would have never occurred to me.
Yeah, definitely. I think, for sure it's all subjective, right? I know for me, I'm a Fisk University alumnus, and the networks and opportunities I've been able to have specifically here in Memphis via that network have been immeasurable.
Right.
My university produced the top number of Black scientists and PhDs for years on years on years. And so, when, internships came up in undergrad or opportunities or letters of recommendation, it's definitely a support like none other. And in that instance, it just feels different, right? It doesn't feel like a handout or a favor. It feels like, a hand up to help us level the playing field.
Yeah.
If you will. And so, for me, I take immense pride in, being an alumnus and wanting to reach back and, help others. But yeah, definitely the financial ramifications are different. It's not, as vast, for sure. The exposure isn't there. But like we always say, if you can hoop, if you can play, they'll find you.
They'll find you. Yeah.
And so, it's all about just,
especially now. I mean, Twitter and
yeah, exactly. And he's already a 5-star. So all eyes are going to be on him regardless. So they're going to be following Howard on ESPN now. So
probably, yeah. I mean, I don't think this means that he's just not on ESPN. I think this means there's a couple Howard games on ESPN sometimes.
Yeah,
I would guarantee it almost. So yeah, shout out to Maker. That was a cool decision and cool to see, especially in the midst of everything going on. And then lastly, Musa Sis is a 5-star recruit, originally from New York, I believe, but currently playing at Los Angeles in Memphis. Long had ties to the University of Memphis basketball program, and for a while was swinging LSU's way. We know Will Wade hands out the fucking bag like nobody else, gets caught on wiretap, and still is there. It literally blows my mind. Like, that's a whole nother podcast for a whole other day. That's like a serial level, like 5-episode podcast about the way conniving ass. But and I'm not saying we're not doing it either, but at least Penny's not on a wiretap. Like, at least,
he's not caught red-handed.
He's not yet been caught red-handed. We don't think, but we also haven't seen all the stuff in this weird investigation. But anyway, yeah. So LSU for a long time, and then we're starting to see the tide turn. The crystal balls times are changing, and then Musa seems to be heading to Memphis at this point. Almost everyone has changed their crystal ball prediction, including Corey Evans, who I think was following the recruitment the closest. Zach, what would be getting in Musa if the Tigers were to get him? Put your John Martin hat on right now and act like you know what you're talking about.
My sources say, and the internet says.
I'm going to write like an athletic article every 3 weeks, and it's just going to be everything I say on the radio.
Oh, God, those articles are so
Dude,
bad.
repurposing content, man. That's the smartest way to do it.
Hey, I mean, I get it. Yeah, I get it. As a content guy myself, and the content is.
So he played at Lausanne, so not necessarily the steepest of competition on their schedule compared to some of the other guys, but he is a nearly 7-foot player, plays near the rim. His biggest asset is on defense, where he's a monster shot blocker. I think he had multiple games this season where he had over 20 blocks, averaged around 10 blocks a game. So he may be playing against guys like my size who can't shoot anyway. I can't speak necessarily to that, but that's his biggest strength is going to be on the defensive end of the floor. He can, his scoring's good, but a lot of that's nature of his height. But his defense is where people are really praising him, and where he can really kind of fill that precious role of, really being able to guard a couple different positions down in the post, come out a little bit if needed. And even with Precious, he wasn't like Precious's offense, if you look, was not efficient. It was not that good, similar to the entire Memphis offense. So it shouldn't be a surprise that if our best player, or if our offense wasn't good, that our best player's offense wasn't that great. But he was the anchor to that defense. And as a freshman, of course, he was an older freshman, but that's something that Memphis would be looking for Musa to jump in and fill that role, along with Malco. Hopefully he's progressed some. I think he's also going to be really good on defense. He's got a really long wingspan, like 7'2", 7'4", something like that. So with those two guys down low, I think that's a pretty decent front court.
Rich, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think coming in like before the Musa news, definitely I think front court was the most glaring need going into next season. So if they were able to, swoop in during this shutdown and, kind of have Musa in the city and, Penny and Cole locked in and, built that fence around Memphis, once again, I think, that's positive. I think he can definitely help for sure. Definitely want to see progression from Malco. I know we signed the junior college Rand as well, who's supposed to be a high energy, springy big. But yeah, I think Musa, there's definitely a space for him. And any good news for the Tigers is always good news. So definitely just hope, it works out, and, looking forward to, John Martin letting us all know that he was right.
Yeah, I think Moose is more like James Wiseman than Precious, though, right? Like we are looking more for the Precious replacement, but we're basically just being like, 5-star big man, so he's Precious replacement, but skill set wise, he's more like Wiseman, right, Zach? Like he's a tall, mobile, athletic big who's a defensive-minded guy. Like Wiseman was not known for his offense; he was running the floor and getting dunks.
Yeah, that was what the offense was what he really needed to prove to scouts and everything. Seeing, can he step out, hit a three, and he hit the elbow jumper pretty good at his time in his 15 minutes of Memphis fame. But yeah, defense is where he was just real nasty.
Yeah, it's exciting times. Anytime a 5-star kid comes to Memphis is good. If we can keep the lottery guys coming through, if we keep the team around, the Boogies and the Lester sticking around and getting better, a year older, and then bring in a lottery pick to supplement them. That is a winning formula in college basketball. So shout out to Penny. Hopefully he can close the deal and get it done. And Musa suits up for the home team and goes to the league the next year and keeps singing the praises like Precious is doing. Anything else, boys, before we adjourn?
Definitely want to give a shout out to former Memphis Grizzly assistant coach Niall Ivey, who went back to her alma mater to accept the head coaching position at Notre Dame. So shout out to her for the power moves for sure. You'll be missed.
Yeah, for sure. We got a great coaching staff for the Grizzlies, it seems like. Well, cool. Well, again, we are the Backdoor Cut Show. We are on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel. You can also find us on the Barn Burner Podcast Network on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Give us that 5-star rating, and it would be much appreciated. And we love to bring you the content, so hopefully you enjoy listening to it. And then also, I just can't get enough of this picture. I was wondering what would break first. My body or my body? Sorry, Zion. This has been the Backdoor Cut Show, part of the Barn Burner Podcast Network. See you guys later.